Jai Oh, you can just exit Zoom on the laptop. It only needs to be on you just can just hit it logged out. That's fine. The phone's gonna do the whole stream. Computer's not needed anymore. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janava Vallabha Vardari. Janavalabha Girivardari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vannachari. Yamunatira Vannachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, Text 16. Questions by King Parikshit. Pramanam Andakoshasya Bhaya Abhyantara Vedataha Mahatam Anucharitam Varna Ashrama Vinishaya. Pramanam Andakoshasya Bhayabhyantara Bhedataha Mahatam Chanucharitam Varnashaya. Pramanam Andakoshasya Bhayabhyantara Bhedataha Mahatam chanu charitam varnashrama vinishchaya pramanam andakoshasya bhayabhyantara vedataha mahatam chanu charitam varnashrama vinishchaya. There's a mic on the mats. There's a mic, the orange mic's over there if devotees want to chant. Pramanam andakoshasya vayabhyantara devataha mahatam chanu charitam varnashrama vinishyaha. Paramanda koshasya vayabhyantara vedataha mahatam charitam varnashrama vinishyaha. Pramanam andakoshasya
Vayabhyantarbhedatah
vayabhyantara vedataha
Mahatam Chanucharitam
mahatam chanu charitam
Varnashram Vinishchayah
varnashrama vinishchayaha. Pramanam, extent and measurement. Andakoshasya, of the universe. Vaya, outer space. Abhyantara, inner space. Vedataha, by division of. Mahatam, of the great souls. Cha, also. Anucharitam, character and activities. Varna, castes. Ashrama, orders of life. Vinishchayaha, specifically described. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Also, please describe the inner and outer space of the universe by specific divisions, as well as the character and activities of the great souls. Also, the characteristics of the different classifications of the castes and orders of social life. Maharaj Parikshit is a typical devotee of Lord Krishna, and as such, he is anxious to know the complete significance of the creation of the Lord. It is quite fitting for the real searcher of knowledge to know all about this. Those who are of the opinion that the devotees of the Lord are satisfied with mere sentiments can find in the inquiries of Maharaj Parikshit good lessons as to how inquisitive a pure devotee is to know things in their true perfection. The modern scientist is unable to know about the inner space of the universal horizon, and what to speak of the space which covers the universe. Maharaj is satisfied with only material knowledge. He is inquisitive about the character and activities of the great souls, the devotees of the Lord. The glories of the Lord and the glories of his devotees combined together comprise the complete knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Krishna showed his mother the complete universal creation within his mouth, while she, completely charmed by her son, wanted to look inside the mouth of the Lord just to see how much earth the child had eaten. By the grace of the Lord, the devotees are able to see everything in the universe within the mouth of the Lord. The very idea of scientific divisions of 4 classes of human society and 4 orders of life is also inquired about herewith on the basis of individual personal quality, visions of one's personal body. The parts and parcels of the body are none different from the body, but by themselves they are only parts. That is the significance of the whole scientific system of 4 castes and 4 social orders. The value of such scientific divisions of human society can be ascertained only in terms of the proportionate development of devotional service to the Lord. Any person employed in government service, including the president, is a part and parcel of the entire government. Everyone is a government servant, but no one is the government himself. That is the position of all living entities in the government of the Supreme Lord. No one can artificially claim the supreme position of the Lord, but everyone is meant to serve the purpose of the supreme whole. Om Jnana Tamrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langirim Yad Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. So, Maharaj Parikshit is showing the inquisitiveness of a pure devotee. Like Srila Prabhupada was explaining, devotional service is not just a sentimental thing that, okay, God is great and in him, therefore I'm saved and I'm happy. But it's a whole science. The devotee wants to know not just that God is great, but what else is he? What are his qualities? And takes up the proper process to know him. And the devotee also wants to know, who is God? What is he like? How is he manifesting this entire creation? What are the qualities of this whole creation? How is it working? The devotee wants to know the absolute truth without any gaps. So it's not something sentimental. There's an actual science to be learned. And we see in the Vedic scriptures that Krishna, he's the goal of all the Vedas, but he's also the source of all the Vedas. So he's giving all knowledge. And what should the result of all the knowledge one can acquire be? That the result should be to know Krishna. Otherwise, what's the use? So Maharaj Parikshit, he is asking about the universe, and we can see by asking a real authority who has real knowledge, he gets real answers. Where today we can see science is based on not having an authority or learning from someone with greater knowledge, but just on what kind of information you can gather yourself with your imperfect senses. So I have got some imperfect senses, and then I want to utilize those to make some instrument, like a telescope or what is it, that something collider, hadron collider, to learn about molecules, or microscope, or all sorts of different inventions to then utilize my imperfect senses and the thing that they created, which is bound to be imperfect because it was made by me with, and every conditioned living entity has 4 defects. So there's a cheating propensity, a propensity to be illusioned, the imperfect senses, and make mistakes. So these are the qualifications of a conditioned living being. And then with those, I'll make some device, which will clearly also have those defects. And then I'll use that to try to learn about this universe myself and try to understand what is the cause of things, instead of hearing from someone who already knows it. So with that method, we see the information that they get is imperfect. I was speaking with one of the, you could say one of the leading scientists that's in this city, one of the topmost minds of Kansas City. And he was interested in what was presented in Srila Prabhupada's books, But one thing that I found really interesting, he was saying, is he said, yeah, with the whole universe, the way that science sees it now is, what is it? He said, I forget the exact number. It was 70% or 90%. He said 90% of the universe, science now has determined, is made of dark matter. I said, oh, that's very interesting. He said, what is that? And he said, we don't know. So 90% of the universe is made of we don't know. Then how do you know? How are you calculating what 100% of the universe is? You say you know 10% and that the rest of it is made out of something that you don't know what it is. How can you even say that where are you getting the 10% from? So we can see it's so profound actually to say that modern science isn't very accurate or a very good way of obtaining knowledge. Nowadays, that's the trend. You'll see in a lot of people's houses now, they'll have a sign and it says what all of their beliefs are on the sign. And they want to say that, okay, I'm an individual and I'm free and this and that, but they own the same sign from the same place that's selling the sign. I've seen it on several houses. So someone is telling them these are your beliefs and then they accept it, but then say I'm an individual and I'm free. But they're saying, here's all my beliefs. I bought it from some guy. But anyway, they have the sign and it says, in this family, we believe that Black Lives Matter, that, what is it? Yeah, we believe that Black Lives Matter, that love is love. So that essentially means whoever you want to have sex with it's okay, no matter if it's the same gender or maybe an animal or whatever. So we believe Black Lives Matter, love is love. And then there's a whole bunch of them. And one of them is and they all have this sign. So that's the belief that if something comes from a scientist, then that's what you should accept as correct. But if you just look at what they're saying and actually read it, which I don't think most people really look into it, you can just read what is said in a scientific article or textbook, and it's filled with speculation or guessing. They say, I was doing some research into what science has said is the ages for the past 100 or 200 years. So one year they say, science now, to the best of our knowledge, the universe is most likely 8 billion years old. And then 20 years later, they say, due to recent discoveries, we realized that the past calculation was not correct. Now, to the best of our knowledge, it is most likely 14 billion years old. So it's guessing to the best of our most likely. And then you see year after year what their truths or their reality is changes over and over again. So this isn't very scientific. It's not very educated. What it is it's cheating, it's guess, and it's bluffing the people. Because now everyone who's less educated than those scientists or just the general public, then they accept, okay, whatever this person says, that's the truth. It must be reality. But the actual fact of the matter is the person saying that does not know the truth. And they admit it themselves in all of their papers and everything. It's right there. It says, we think, maybe, it could be, I'm guessing. So it's obvious that it's not science, but this is what everyone is taught to follow and believe. And what's the result of that? Is it's a civilization of the blind leading the blind. So if a blind person is leading another blind person, they're in danger. They fall, run into things, get hurt. So that's why we see modern civilization is in such a bad state, because in a real civilization, like in a Vedic civilization, people follow genuine authorities. So all of society in Vedic culture is taught to worship and respect and learn from the Brahmanas, which are the head of the society, the most educated people. Why? Because they know Brahman. They know what is God. They know the goal of all knowledge. Krishna says of the Vedas, he's the compiler of the Vedas and he's the goal of them. So the Brahmanas, they know that goal, and then they're able to actually give people proper guidance and proper instruction and proper knowledge. And in that way, the whole society actually prospers just because of this respect for Brahmanas, or respect for people who know God and they also understand God's energies, God's creation, how everything's working. Because society looks up to them and respects them, then naturally all the other people in society develop those godly qualities, saintly qualities, pure qualities. And society becomes purified. Everyone makes gradual advancement. But we see today, the society is taught to look up to people who are guessing, so they don't get any real knowledge. And then also, education is supposed to be based on the development of one's character. That's real education. One becomes educated so they become a good person, and not just in like a mundane sense, but good in all ways. They know, okay, who is God? Serve him. How should I act? How should I act with others? How should I engage in different duties? They develop good character. That's education. But we see in the school systems today, there's no such thing as character. It's not mentioned. You're probably in trouble if you mention something like character. They'll say you're, stereotyping and this and that. And you're probably not allowed to even speak about character. And what to say, speak about God. There's no Pledge of Allegiance anymore because God was in there. And you definitely allowed to speak about God in school. The teachers get in trouble for bringing that up. So therefore, people don't actually get an education. What is it? What's the school now? It's more of like cattle raising. They train people in little skills so that people can then use that skill to work like an ass under some boss who's several people up in a company and they never even meet him or know his name. So it's just training just like animals or like donkeys. So she becomes educated. They don't grow in character. If someone's learning from a teacher, that teacher is supposed to be of the best of character. In the Vedas, it said that one shouldn't become a husband, a guru, a teacher, a mother, a father, anything where you have some dependents or people looking up to you, unless you can deliver them from the cycle of birth and death. And that starts with good character. Someone needs to come to the human platform before they can know how to actually get out of all the material entanglements that are keeping them suffering in this material world. So in school, when teachers are hired, it's just based on, do you have a degree in how to do these little set of skills or how to teach a little bit on this subject? Maybe they take one drug test just once, and then that's the extent of the character check. Or maybe there's a background check to see if they've gone to jail for something, and if it's not too bad, then they can be. So then what happens to the students? I remember in middle school, one day our French teacher just went missing. We're saying, what happened to Mrs. Francois or whatever her name was? And this, I heard from the students, she got fired because she was passed out drunk in the hallway. So this is the character of teachers now. So then what happens to the students? Whatever someone can say and do whatever they like. But at the end of the day, the way that you're acting and what your values and your character is, that's how those who are learning from you are going to act. That's why whenever you hear classes and devotees are giving some encouragement, Krishna consciousness movement, and that they give them, they tell them, okay, just you practice strictly. Then your children, they'll see how nice and Krishna conscious you are. They'll also become Krishna conscious. But if you're not practicing strictly, if you're not Krishna conscious, then no matter what you say, what you do, your child's not going to listen because he's just going to follow the example. We see that there's so many mundane examples you could give to parents like smoking or something. So the teachers, there's no character, and such as scientists, what's the character of these people who are leading society? The people who everyone listens to. And they do, like we said, they say on the sign, science is real. And then whenever something happens in the world, you don't see any articles that are coming out about what the religious institutions are doing or about really what any other field is doing besides what do the scientists say. I've heard this example often. That's a good example how when the coronavirus started going around, there's no article from any other institution, religious, educational, or anything, but it says the scientists say this is the situation, here's how we're going to fix it, and here's what everyone must do. And then everyone follows them. So part of what they were saying is no one go to any more churches, mosque, temples, or any sort of religious function. Don't do that anymore because there people will gather there. So make sure not to do that. And then everybody listens. So they stop going to any sort of religious thing. And we see what's the result. Well, they listen to scientists. So if the scientists say give up religion, then everybody gives it up. And then what's the result? There's no peace. There's no prosperity. There's no getting to the real goal of life because people are being taught to completely avoid talking about it, avoid thinking about it. And then the point I've been wanting to get to, I keep going off on the side, but what's the character of those who are giving guidance and knowledge to society? We can see they're going, you have teachers and scientists and whoever, what do they eat? It's like garbage. We talked about that in a class recently, but they eat garbage, meat and stuff that's called meat, but it's just actual, garbage put through a tube and then you fry it and all sorts of weird stuff. And that causes so much violence just to eat. And then what's their character? There's no control of the senses. That's definitely not taught in society. So it's definitely not there in any of the teachers or scientists. They're crazy, lusty people. We see you can read the what is that book? There's a book that has all of the people who are like the leading thinkers of all of modern society's ideas. It's got them all compiled in there. Oh, dialectic spiritualism. And there you'll see you can find this list anywhere else too. I'm just thinking this is one spot where you can see it. You can also find it on whatever, Wikipedia. But it's got a list of all the people leading modern ideas. So there's Sigmund Freud and there's so many. And you can get this list and then you can see, well, what is the character or the life of these people who are leading society. And you can see they're totally insane. One of them who really he's the most like prominent push behind this views, like social views today. He's so weird, lusty guy. His whole stuff with his mother and all this weird stuff. Who is it? Is that Sigmund Freud? This crazy guy. So this is what people are listening to as the authority for society. Whereas we can see Vedic culture, who they listen to. It's the most amazing people. And before the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, there's many council meetings being had in the Mahabharata, and who are the leaders of the whole world being instructed by the most amazing people, Vidura. He's talking about Bhagavatam. He just tells the truth in every situation, no matter how difficult it would be to say the truth in those situations. He tells it like it is for the benefit of those who are hearing from him and for his own benefit. He doesn't want any material thing, so he can't actually be swayed. His senses are fully controlled, so he can't be bribed or allured by something and then speak falsely. We can see there's no control of senses in society today, so how will anyone speak in a grain of the truth? But in Vedic culture, the Brahmanas, the people who are truly qualified, they're giving knowledge and not changing it just for some personal gain. So Maharaj Parikshit, he's asking, he's a king. He's kind of in a different role now that he's on the bank of the Ganges, but he's a king and he's asking the most qualified person all about this universe and the creation and the goals of life and everything. because the person he's asking can actually give the proper answer and can guide him and guide the whole world. As we can see now, this is 5,000 years later, we're being guided by this. He can guide the whole world with this knowledge because this is a pure person, Shukadev Goswami, someone who's fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And without that full absorption in Krishna consciousness, without full absorption in devotional service to the Lord, there's no question of understanding this world. There's no question of knowing even what a great soul is, or the characteristics of people in society and how social life should be conducted. There's no question of understanding anything without absorption in devotional service. So that's what we need to do. And then that's what we need to learn from, is those who are fully absorbed in devotional service. That's why it's explained in Bhagavad Gita that one must approach a spiritual master. And the Sanskrit word that's used there is a non-optional word. It's saying one must do this. If one actually wants to understand things the way they are, solve all of the problems of life, and attain the goal of life, one must approach a spiritual master. And who is that spiritual master? It's somebody who knows Krishna. And how does someone know Krishna? They don't know him by doing whatever they feel like, or by just acting selfishly for themselves, or having bad character. But it's someone who follows the instructions of Krishna. It's someone who acts on whatever is pleasing to Krishna and whatever Krishna says to do. It's someone who's fully controlled their senses. That's a huge part of devotional service and trying to know what is God. Like, if you read a Nectar of Instruction, almost the whole beginning is about just controlling your senses. And then it speaks about chanting the holy name, and then the goal of chanting. So Srila Prabhupada gives the example that if one wants to operate a vehicle, they can try for hours and hours messing with it, and if the vehicle's broken, it won't run. But if they bring it to a mechanic, he sees it, he touches some part, and it runs. So people say, can you show me God? But see, what's the qualification for seeing the vehicle properly? If someone isn't trained as a mechanic, they'll never see it properly. The car will never run. But they bring it to a mechanic, he sees the vehicle, he just touches some part, and it runs. So if a qualification is needed for just some simple iron aluminum vehicle, what to speak of seeing God? The qualification has to be there, and that starts with control of the senses. And then hearing from proper authorities, and then chanting. So these things are needed. Otherwise, society is just in a hellish condition that we see now. And we can give people the proper authority, which has been made in such a easily accessible form of Srila Prabhupada's books, like the Srimad Bhagavatam, all the other compilations of books, Bhagavad Gita, Science of Self-Realization, Nectar of Devotion. We can go and just give people the proper authority for their life, just simply handing it to them. One devotee in Atlanta, he was saying they had a whole class about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam and distributing the Srimad Bhagavatam, because there's nothing better than Srimad Bhagavatam. And when the class ended, they heard the doorbell ring. And he said, when I heard that doorbell, I didn't hear the doorbell. I heard Bhagavatam. And he went to the door. There's someone who was there, and I think their car had broken down and they're asking for some help or something. And some devotees went to go check it out. And he brought the Bhagavatam set, and a stranger whose car broke down, they took the whole Bhagavatam set. So like this, we can give people the proper authority for their whole life if we just try it. Like Vaisheshika Prabhu always says that and he gets other people to say it, that book distribution is, that's the second one. Yeah, it's easy and it's fun. So if people understand the value of this knowledge, that there's no use to life without it, and then they also understand how easy it is to share with others, then that desire can be there to share it, and it happens very easily. People take a whole set of Srila Prabhupada's books. So like that, society can actually be helped by gaining this knowledge. And if you hear in the Srimad Bhagavatam, he gets really heavy in the chapter explanation of devotional service, I think it's called. And when he's speaking to his mother Devahuti, he tells her that if someone doesn't if someone is not seeing that I'm in the heart of every living entity and trying to help them, then it does not matter what he offers me in the temple. It does not matter how he approaches my form as the deity. I don't want anything to do with him if he's not actually compassionate for other living entities. So this is what's really valuable to Krishna, is having uh, compassion for other living entities. And Srila Prabhupada explains that that compassion isn't just seeing a poor person and going, okay, they're less fortunate because they don't have money or some better material circumstance. But he explains that everyone in this material world is poor because they've forgotten Krishna. So become compassionate, or for those of us who already are, I'm not, but we can become compassionate or act on that compassion simply by giving Srila Prabhupada's mercy, form of this knowledge of Krishna consciousness, in the form of these books to the conditioned souls all over the world. But as far as all over the world goes, the instruction is first liberate your city. Then you can think about and then we can work on liberating the world. And once we liberate the whole world, we can put Srila Prabhupada's books on the rockets and send them to the other planets. So we can start with Kansas City by engaging in this book distribution of this knowledge of Krishna consciousness, and then people's lives can become perfected, and ours can too. Is there any comment or question? Yes, please.
Jai, thank you, Prabhu. I was going to say a few things, but
you can.
I really like the last point you were making. So, but you said it so nicely. There's nothing else I need to say about it. I was waiting for you to say something about book distribution. I was like, come on, and you tied it in nicely. But earlier in the beginning of the class, you were saying there's a sign that people say, they say science is real, and that sign indirectly, that sign is saying essentially religion is unreal. Quoting science is, they're trying to essentially say science is real, everything else is not real, like religion and these sentiments, these are all bogus. So that's why they're saying science is promoting atheism. And these are also, it's also promoting, or a way that people who are like into the transgender, they justify, you know, themselves for being transgender, because now science is backing up. And telling their parents, if you don't agree with your child being transgender or having a sex change, you're a bad parent, you know, essentially, because the scientists and the modern psychologists, they're all promoting these things because there's money involved. That's a big reason, because they get more money. So those are insane, the society. And I was also thinking in regards to that point you were saying about the character of people. And I was thinking in today's society, the crazier, the better, you know, it's like that's what's promoted and worshipped. It's like the more absurd someone is, the more media attention they get. And we see these artists, whether they be, you know, musicians or people who paint and do all the, you know, especially people who are into the arts, the class of people, but they're the worship the most. And the more absurd and crazy they are, which happens because when you give them money, that's what naturally Shudras do, is they spend it on brothels and sense gratification and all these things. So, and we hear things like, oh, this person is a crazy genius, you know, but their life is a total mess. You see how they act, and their behavior, as you were saying, is absolutely absurd. And you gave the example of, what's that book again? Dialectic spiritualism. Yeah, I remember reading about these people prior to Krishna consciousness, and every single person who's seen in these classes that are like very gray, whether it be, is like they had some very weird like character traits, you know, very lusty behavior or obsessions, and a lot of them committed suicides or drunkards, or like they ended in a very like terrible life. And that was me. If I was gonna believe or follow what this person believes, I was just thinking like, how did his life end up? Is that how I want to end up? And that was my natural train of thought. It was just like let's see how there's like this person who's worshipped and glorified. And most of these people have very drastic and tragic death because they're crazy, you know. But these are the people who are worshipped. As he was such a great genius, he's a great artist, he was all these things, but he was a mad person actually. Those are some thoughts.
Thank you for bringing up those points. It just reminded me, I was seeing one thing is also, what do the brahmanas do, or what do the educators of society do with money? They don't keep extra than they need. They give it in charity to, you could say, religious institutions, or to the propagation of God consciousness, or well, to who needs it. So to brahmanas, they give charity and they don't keep excess money, and in that way they don't have to change the truth to try to hoard more money and be materialistic. We can see, what do the schools spend money on now? I remember Krishnendu and I were looking at one college to go to, and an article came up about it just this year, and it was saying that they're asking the president of the school to resign because he used a huge mass of the, not like the tax funds that go to the school or the other types of funds, but just the funds that all the students and all their parents and families pay to the school. They use a significant chunk of it to pay for a drag show. That means someone, the men who dress as the women, to come to the school, and they specifically gave a huge chunk of it, like 100,000 or a very big amount, just to for one drag queen to come to the show and show off for the school. So these are the educators of today. So you can, someone can make an educated decision who they want to choose to learn from. But also on that point, Krishna told Arjuna to fight. And when Arjuna was encouraging his enemies to fight strongly against him, he told Duryodhana that, what is the use? Because Duryodhana was saying so many words to Arjuna and the Pandavas. And Arjuna said, what is the use of all your words? All this, he said, all these words are simply for eunuchs, but a Kshatriya actually fights. So if I only just talk about book distribution, which is all that I do, then I'm simply a eunuch. But if I actually engage in bookness, that's what an actual devotee like Arjuna would do. So we get a chance to try for that today at the Mahaharinam at the plaza, or somewhere else if it's raining. So let's try for it. Sankirtan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.